Self-reliance cannot exist in the life of a Christ follower. That may work for the American dream, but that's not how Jesus' kingdom works. So how do we avoid the self-reliance trap? Because God will snuff that out. If there's self-reliance in us, God will work things to snuff it out. Following Jesus means learning to abide in him. Abide's not a word that we use often, so what does it mean? Abide, it just means continued dependence. That's it. Simple. If we're going to simplify it, continued dependence. Following Christ is a lot more about being something and becoming something than it is about doing something. I'll say that one more time. Following Christ is a lot more about being something and becoming something than it is doing something. Our part of the process is not producing. Our part in the process is receiving. Listen to how John 15:5 goes. I am the vine, you're the branches. Whoever abides or continues depending in me, and I in him, it is he that bears much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. So in other words, Jesus has made a guarantee. He's made a promise. He says, if you continue depending on me, the doing and the producing is going to take care of itself. So let me illustrate this way. Back in Texas, at the place that I coached and taught, all coaches had to be certified to drive a bus. Now, what this meant was that at least 3 or 4 times a year, I was always recruited to drive a field trip. And this always made me really nervous because if you know anything about me, you know that I have the world's worst sense of direction. And inevitably, every single field trip was to a place that was far away and unfamiliar. It's like my nightmare, right? It's like 30 kids on a lost bus is a recipe for disaster. You know this if you've been in education. So I had a strategy to fix this. I was always going to get into the second bus because the first bus always knew where they were going. So if I was in the second bus, I was sure I was going to get there. And so driving the bus, every single field trip, every single time I drove the bus, I had one single mission. And it wasn't getting to the destination. It was following and staying as close as humanly possible behind that lead bus. Because if I did that, everything else would take care of itself. I was going to get the kids to the destination. Anybody who was following me was going to get there because I was going to be headed to the right place. And I think that's how abiding in Christ works. When we're connected with him and we're following so closely behind him, producing fruit is naturally going to follow.